Finally, there are people who have been tremendous supporters of our school through the years and who are no longer with us. We have acknowledged them in our program. It is important that we do not forget them. Please give them a warm hand as well. Today, the 2011-12 school year comes to a close. Tomorrow, the 2012-13 one begins as our new charter contract takes effect. We cannot wait to start this new era for our school and welcome you all to join us as we continue to build on the solid foundations we have laid over the last several years. Thank you again for celebrating with us and have a great evening. And with that, I would like to present our valedictorian. Please welcome Mr. Drew Kistler. Let's give him a warm hand again. And for our speech from the graduates, let's please give a warm hand to Dewana Cox.
Always good luck. Let me just get my speech out. First off, I would like to say good evening to my principals, teachers, and to the graduating class of 2012, all 8 of us. Today couldn't have been a more perfect day just to wake up and know I ain't got to go to school in the morning. It's such a relief. But anyway, back to this thing at hand, which is we're graduating. I'm glad to say I'm graduating from Grand Canyon Prep Academy. It opened up a whole new world of opportunities and doors, and although I must admit the school was quite different, it was all good. I still like y'all. I love y'all. And I'm just glad it's over so we can now use the lessons that they gave us and hopefully put them to great use on our later lives. So let's give a clap for our graduating seniors.
As I mentioned a few moments ago, when we first started our school, John Huppenthal was there when we first broke ground. He has also been a guest speaker at our graduation ceremonies in 2007. Both times he was a member of our state legislature. Today we are honored and very thankful to welcome Mr. Huppenthal back, but in his role as our boss, the Superintendent of Public Instruction for the state of Arizona. Please give Superintendent Huppenthal a warm hand.
Chancellor Gordon, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for that honor, and thank you for the great job that you're doing for these fine young students. They are obviously on to a better life and a better future as a result of your efforts. We appreciate those. Let's give David a round of applause. You know, we have thanked the teachers, but we know now that teachers are so ultimately critical in a child's future. I would like to have the teachers stand and to be congratulated by the audience for their vote. Can the other teachers stand? Thank you for the great job that you have obviously done. As I prepared for the speech tonight, I thought I would go out on the internet and take a look at YouTube and take a look at some commencement addresses. And I listened to quite a number of speeches, and one particularly gripped me, fascinated me. And it was Steve Jobs speaking at a commencement address at Stanford. And I found it just so transfixing because he talked about how you couldn't connect the dots looking forward in your life, that you could only connect them looking backwards. And he gave an example of his own life. Steve Jobs was an adopted child, and his parents really couldn't afford to send him to college, but they did. And it was quite a struggle for them, and he decided that he would drop out of college so he could relieve that financial strain on them. But he didn't leave college, he just dropped out. And he kept going to school in college. He rolled out his sleeping bag between the beds of 2 of his friends in the dorm room, so he was sleeping on the floor. he'd go down to the Hare Krishna Center for his meals, and he decided he would take the courses that he enjoyed taking. So he took calligraphy. And so his parents were saying, well, what are you going to do with calligraphy? So this is one of those dots that you could never, in your wildest dreams, connect the dots looking forward. You could only connect them looking backwards. What did he do with calligraphy? He created this beautiful artistic look for all of the Apple products that so created and enthralled people, that propelled an organization to the most valuable corporation ever in the history of the world. And what an incredible accomplishment. And, you know, and his bottom line there was, in all that you do, as you're looking forward and you do this very prepared life, make sure that you pursue your passions. Take the time to do that. And make sure that what you're doing, you have a passion for. Because in the end, you're going to want to connect the dots looking backwards. And if you haven't done the things that you dream of doing, if you haven't made time for those passions, if you don't have a passion for the things that you're working on, it's likely that you may have difficulty connecting those dots looking backwards. As I look at this school, I see that passion. I see the passion for creating the small school environment that's protective of kids, that gets them emotionally and cognitively ready to go on to a better life and a better future. And it's obvious these students are ready for that. As I read over Steve Jobs' speech, I thought a little bit on my background and connecting the dots that brought me to the superintendency. And I go back to my high school years. And I went to a Catholic school, and so I had to pay for my own tuition. And I had moved out of home when I was a junior in high school. So I had to pay rent on an apartment that was $40 a month. And so I would go to school, go to wrestling practice, and then I would go and do my job. And my job was, I worked in a foundry. And it was the most menial job you could imagine. I had to shovel sand every night. In the foundry business, that's what they use. They use sand to pour molten aluminum, molten brass, and molten copper into molds. And then the sand that is the mold has to be broken up at night and ground back into sand. So I would go in there every night, and I'd be in this building by myself, and every night I would try to set a record shoveling sand. Set a new record for how many tons of sand I would shovel at night to try and make sure they were all ready for work in the morning. But unbeknownst to me, I wasn't alone. The owner would come back into the foundry, and looking out from the administrative offices, he could see me. And what he saw was somebody out there who was working really hard. And one day, because I also worked on Saturdays, he came up to me and he said, I don't want you working so hard at night. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you a promotion. You're going to be the manager of the lead line, which was one of the foundry lines. And with that, I was able to pay for my college education with the money that I saved at the foundry job. Who could have dreamed that shoveling sand as hard as you could would open and connect those dots when you're all by yourself, and I could have done half the work and they would have still been happy. So, and then I was a high school athlete, and I wasn't perhaps the student that I might have been, but I loved to wrestle. And here I am in a private Catholic school, and a volunteer public schools teacher, Jack Segerson, volunteers to help coach our wrestling team. And he coached me to a high school state championship wrestling, undefeated, but that was the least of what he did for me. He started talking to me, and he wanted to know what I was going to do with my future. And somehow he figured out that I could be an engineer. I had 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and we were in a family that was more focused on putting food on the table than an education. But we went to the library every week, so we were a family dedicated to learning. But I didn't really have college education as part of my culture. But he figured it out. He talked to me, and I'd taken drafting. I'd been in a family of machinists, working in this foundry environment too. And he said, you're going to be an engineer. It scared me half to death. Didn't know I could do it. He called the dean of engineering, said, I'm sending over John Hupendall, sign him up. Went over there, and he was right. I worked really hard. I got all A's and a few B's, and I got my degree in engineering.